Question from Rich. And Rich is a white belt that's been training for a bit, and he's curious about what does it mean to survive as a white belt? Because everybody in his gym, all the higher belts, his coaches, everyone else says that the thing that he should be focused on, since this is his first year of jiu-jitsu, is just surviving. Survive. That's all you got to do, Rich. Now, his question is, what does it even mean, survive? Does that mean that I just don't get submitted as much? Does it mean that I just keep showing up? And he's just looking to get some clarification on what that idea of surviving as a white belt means. And so, Rich, thank you for the question, brother. And think about it this way. There's kind of this thing that's true about any skill that you gain. Doesn't jiu-jitsu, all of it's the same. There, you come into in the beginning, and what brings you in is this excitement to get to this point that you've seen others get to, right? So again, what attracts us into jiu-jitsu? It's sure as hell not the white belts that are getting like flopping all over the place and not sure what the hell they're doing, right? When I got into horse riding with my wife, right? My driving factor was not watching people get chucked off the horse or people struggling to get the right lead on the leg or anything. It wasn't that. It was watching people like gallop and they're running these horses and all this cool stuff, right? That's what attracts us to these things. And then we come in and we realize, holy crap, this is way more difficult than I even expected. I know that when I got into jiu-jitsu, what attracted me to jiu-jitsu was the thought of being one of these really badass jiu-jitsu guys that was submitting people in MMA and competitions. I wanted to be one of those guys. And when I came in jiu-jitsu and early on, I was a wrestler, was pretty good at it, so I figured I'd be at least like a blue belt and I'd be smashing some of the people in the gym. I was wrong. I got smashed by even the smallest dude in the class, which was good because I instantly thought to myself, I need to be doing this because the small guy kicked my butt. I got to do this. But also it was tough because you're going through this phase now where you wanted to be doing this, but really what you're doing is flopping around and fumbling and not being very good at something. And that is tough to deal with. I had that phase for about 6 months where I came into the gym and basically, aside from the one guy that started with me, I got smashed by everybody else. I just kicked my butt, and I got beat up over and over again. And again, I had to keep coming because there's no other way to get around it. Also, back in the day when I started, 2003, there weren't a lot of new students coming in. So when you were the new student, you were the new student for a while, and you were going to be at the bottom of the pecking order. And so I had to go for that for about 6 months until I started to kind of creep up a little bit and start getting better. But what I'm getting at here is that part. That is so hard. But if you can make it past that point, then you get good and it's fun, right? Once you start to get some level of proficiency at something with a skill, it becomes completely different and it's so much more fun. It's exciting. You get so excited because you can play around with stuff now and you can try things. It's so exciting. But getting through that early phase is very difficult. And most people, when it comes to just about any skill, it's not just jiu-jitsu, just anything, they don't make it. And I think, again, one of the reasons why is because unless you've gone through some really tough skill acquisition, you don't realize that it's going to be tough like that. Once you've done it once, you realize what you're in for. Like when I got in, again, just using the horse riding as a parallel here, when I got into horse riding, I knew I was going to suck. I remember my wife was talking to me, and my first day I was riding on the horse, and I'm damn near getting thrown off, and I'm just hanging on to like the horn on the saddle, and I'm like, oh God, just try not to get thrown off this damn horse. And I remember afterwards, she was like, hey, are you still going to come in and do it with me? Because she thought I was thinking about quitting. I was like, of course. I knew I was going to be bad at this. This is like, I'm a white belt again, like I was in jiu-jitsu. And anytime I do something new, I completely understand that I'm looking to get here, but where I'm really going to be is down here. And I think sometimes people maybe have a disconnect there. So anyway, going back to it, I'm sure I'm talking fast because I'm getting excited, right? So getting back to your question, when you start, there is a technical sense of surviving, which comes to you basically not getting submitted as much. Because in the beginning, what do, Rich? You come in and you get submitted by everyone. When I was a white belt very early on, my little mini goals for myself, I sort of accepted that I was going to get my butt kicked by everybody. So I was just balling up sometimes and saying, okay, I'd look up at the clock and say, I've got 1 minute left. Let's see if I can last for 1 minute, Or, man, this guy submitted me 3 times last week. Well, maybe I can slow him down to 2 times. Little small goals like that, just trying to survive a little bit longer than I did previously. But then there is the big sort of thing, which is you got to show up. And that is part of surviving because, again, you're going through that early phase of where it sucks and it's not easy. And sure, it might be fun in the beginning, but you're going to have to go through months of this stuff where you're not going to be very good. And that's difficult to do. And it's that point where, can you survive that? Because that's hard. It's not easy. Your body's sore. You've got all these weird aches and pains you've never felt as your body adapts to training. And then, you're going in, you're like, God, I just keep getting killed by everyone. Why am I even doing this damn thing again? You start to self-question. And then you can find a million reasons not to do it. But can you find one to keep you going? And can you just keep showing up? Because again, at the end of the day, when it comes to skill, assuming you got a good coach and everything else, it all comes down to just consistency. It's like a leaky faucet, if you will. Little drops. It don't look like much in the beginning, but over time that damn thing fills up. And it's the same thing with your training. Those small, little consistent days of training, it don't look like much in the beginning, but that is what you're doing. You're putting that into your bank. You can think of it as a bank account. In the beginning, you're building this thing up. Or maybe you're building up some retirement account. Doesn't look like much in the beginning, but then it builds up to a big amount of money, and all of a sudden it's got some momentum. It's the same thing with your training. You're basically putting in that deposit, if you will, every time you train. And again, once you put in that deposit, it doesn't look like much in the beginning, but over time, your technical account, your training account builds up. And then all of a sudden it's got some sort of momentum and you're a blue belt or you're a purple belt and you've got some real weight behind you and you can really do something on the mats and it becomes exciting and fun because you have so much more freedom because of the technical skill that you've developed. And so, yeah, you hit the nail on the head, bro. Survival is getting submitted less on the mats and just trying to survive, like on a technical sense, and then also sticking around longer, not quitting, because again, most people are going to quit, and it's not just jiu-jitsu, just anything that's related to skill. Skill is hard, it's not easy, and you have to really dig into something, and again, you also have to be intrinsically motivated on some level to keep doing this thing. If you're doing it for some extrinsic thing that you think you want, that's not going to do it. You're going to have to drive and dig for something that makes you want to show up, whether it's going great or if it's not going so great. And that's where I would think I would go with it. So anyway, Rich, hope that helps you. Hope that helps you with your question. Maybe get you something to chew on your drive home from training the next time. And guys, I'll talk to you next time.